Imagine being hailed as the next NBA superstar, only for your career to completely fall apart. Today, we are uncovering the biggest draft busts in NBA history. You won't believe how these futures took a nosedive. And stay with us because the last pick we cover didn't just disappoint, they changed how teams think about drafting forever. At number 7, we have Jahlil Okafor. Now, for those unaware, Okafor was a huge deal in 2014. The guy was the top high school recruit in the country, and when he got to Duke, he delivered. ACC Player of the Year? Check. Leading the Blue Devils to an NCAA championship? Double check. Okafor was the best freshman in college hoops, and by the time the NBA draft rolled around, everybody was talking about him. The Philadelphia 76ers grabbed him at number 3 overall, and with Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell going right before him, Okafor seemed like the perfect pick. And you know what? At first, it looked like they nailed it. His rookie year was a straight-up success, 17.5 points and 7 rebounds per game, landing him all rookie honors. It seemed like Okafor was about to be the next big thing in Philly. But after that, it all just fell apart. His second year was decent, but his production plummeted afterward. It's like he lost his spark overnight. The once promising center found himself bouncing around the league, playing for 3 different teams over the next 4 seasons. His last NBA stint with the Detroit Pistons, a disappointing 5 points per game. Now, this wasn't really a situation where Philly made a terrible pick either. At the time, Okafor seemed like the right choice at number 3, especially given his college dominance. But as talented as he was, it just didn't translate long-term onto the NBA. Okafor's been overseas for the last couple of years, unable to regain the form that made him such a prized prospect. In the end, Okafor is another classic case of unrealized potential. Up next at number 6, we have Dragan Bender. The Phoenix Suns had their eyes on this 7-foot Croatian sensation, believing they had found the next great European big man. Coming into the 2016 NBA draft, Bender was seen as a high-risk, high-reward project. A versatile player with the potential to stretch the floor and dominate as a shooter. But things went sideways fast. The Phoenix Suns snagged Bender with the 4th overall pick, banking on his upside, but instead of evolving into a game changer, he flat out flopped. Bender never managed to find his groove, averaging just 5.3 points and 3.9 rebounds while shooting an unremarkable 39% from the field. His lack of athleticism was exposed, and 3 seasons later, the Suns declined his option. That's when it became clear Bender wasn't going to live up to the hype. To add salt to the wound, just a few picks later, Buddy Hield, Jamal Murray, and even Pascal Siakam, all future stars, were still sitting on the board. After uneventful stints with Milwaukee and Golden State, Bender was out of the NBA by 2020. At only 22 years old, his NBA journey was over before it ever really began, forcing him overseas to play in Israel and Spain. Bender's fall is one of the more painful NBA draft busts in recent memory, especially for Suns fans. Moving on to another bust by the Suns. At number 5, we have Josh Jackson. If anyone can mess up 2 straight top 4 picks, it's the Suns. After the Dragan Bender disaster in 2016, they doubled down with Josh Jackson at number 4 in 2017. And while Jackson wasn't quite as bad as Bender, let's just say the Suns weren't winning any awards for draft success. Jackson came into the league with serious potential. At Kansas, he was supposed to be the next big thing, an athletic, defensive-minded forward with all-star written all over him. But in the NBA, he never quite lived up to the hype. Sure, he averaged 12.3 points and a steal per game, which might sound decent, but the fact that the Suns traded him away after just 2 seasons, yeah, that says it all. And it wasn't just his inconsistent on-court play. Jackson had some serious off-the-court issues too. After Phoenix gave up on him, Jackson bounced around the league, never sticking as a reliable starter, let alone the star people thought he'd be. In January 2023, he landed with the Stockton Kings, but even that was short-lived, playing just 1 game before being waived. A far cry from what Phoenix hoped for when they drafted him at number 4. Jackson's career has been more of a cautionary tale than the success story they envisioned. Now at number 4, we have Markelle Fultz. And fair warning, this one's a bit of a roller coaster ride. When the Sixers traded up to grab Markelle Fultz with the 1st overall pick in 2017, the basketball world thought they were witnessing the next big thing. I mean, this guy was a dynamic scorer at Washington. How could you go wrong? I've got one word for you: injuries. First, injuries sidelined him for all but 33 games over his first 2 seasons. But what really sent jaws dropping was when Fultz developed the yips. Yep, the #1 overall pick literally forgot how to shoot. Watching him struggle to release the ball during free throws was painful. The Sixers had bet big on the process, but it looked like they traded up for a bust while the Celtics snatched Jason Tatum 2 picks later. Ouch. And it gets worse when you realize who else came out of that draft. Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, and De'Aaron Fox. Talk about a loaded class. Yet Fultz, the top pick, could barely find his shot, let alone his place in the league. But here's the thing. After getting shipped off to Orlando, Fultz slowly found his footing. No, he didn't become the superstar everyone dreamed of, but he stabilized his career. At 26, Fultz still has time to craft a solid career, even if he'll never live up to the sky-high expectations of being a #1 pick. Up next at #3 is Marvin Bagley III. The Sacramento Kings were on the clock with the #2 pick in the 2018 NBA draft, and their choices were endless. Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So who did they go with? Marvin Bagley III. Yeah, that might sound surprising to you right now, but to be fair, Bagley had the height, athleticism, and all the physical tools you'd want in a franchise cornerstone. But there's one thing he couldn't control: his health. The guy just couldn't stay on the court. In fact, he's yet to play more than 62 games in a single season, constantly sidelined by injury after injury. Every time it seemed like he might break out, bam, he'd miss another chunk of the season. And while Bagley isn't doing bad these days with the Wizards, he isn't projected to ever be an all-NBA player like Luka, Trae, or Shai. And Kings fans are left wondering what could have been. Jarrett Culver at #2 is another case of a quick fall from grace. Culver went from hometown hero to one of the NBA's biggest disappointments, and it all happened so fast. Born and raised in Lubbock, Texas, Culver stayed loyal to his roots, leading Texas Tech on a mind-blowing run to the national championship game. He was a second-team All-American, Big 12 Player of the Year, and looked like he was ready to tear up the NBA after declaring for the draft. I mean, the hype was real. Culver was taken with the 6th overall pick by the Phoenix Suns in 2019, only to get traded to the Timberwolves right after. In his rookie year, he put up 9.2 points per game, and people thought, all right, this kid might be something. But the following seasons, absolute freefall. His minutes vanished, his numbers tanked, and suddenly, Culver wasn't the promising star we all thought he'd be. The Timberwolves gave up on him, and Jarrett bounced around a bit. Meanwhile, guys like Tyler Herro and Kobe White, drafted just a few picks later, are thriving. It's a massive letdown from someone who looked destined for so much more. One player who's hoping to avoid this fate is James Wiseman, and boy does he have his work cut out for him. Wiseman was supposed to be a game changer for the Golden State Warriors when they selected him with the 2nd overall pick in 2020. Pre-draft comparisons had him alongside legends like Chris Bosh and Patrick Ewing, but the hype has quickly crumbled into disappointment. Over 3 seasons, Wiseman barely had managed to play 84 games, derailed by nagging knee injuries and inconsistent performances. The Warriors, who once saw him as their key piece for a championship run, ended up trading to Detroit after less than 3 years. And to add insult to injury, they passed on future stars like LaMelo Ball, Tyrese Halliburton, and Tyrese Maxey, players who are now lighting up the league. Now, Wiseman is with the Detroit Pistons, but he can't even crack the starting lineup, trailing behind guys like Marvin Bagley and Isaiah Stewart. 4 years in, and he's still struggling to live up to the sky-high expectations. If things don't change drastically, Wiseman's saga might just become one of the most jaw-dropping draft disappointments in the post-Giannis era.